All right, so as many of you know, Trump gets into office about a month ago, and right off the bat, like off the break, starts signing executive order after executive order, one after another. And about a week later, the White House issued this memo pretty much saying that they were going to be putting a pause on all federally funded programs. They would not be receiving that funding. Now, within a day or two, a federal judge pretty much shut that down, and then the White House rescinded that memo, but they said the funding freeze was still in effect. So, of course, this caused all type of confusion. People didn't know what was going on, what programs were being affected, and eventually the White House did say if you were receiving rental assistance, then the funds would not be affected. However, February got here, and guess what? Some landlords didn't get paid. Yes, and I actually had some in my comment section pretty much saying they still hadn't got paid after a few days. They didn't know what was going on, and even the New York City Housing Authority, they didn't pay their landlords. And guess who they blamed it on? The Trump administration. They pretty much said all of the confusion came from Trump issuing this pause, and then the federal judge throwing it out, and then the White House said that the funding freeze was still in effect. New York Section 8 landlords didn't get paid right away. Now, eventually, of course, they got their money, but it was just delayed. I ended up getting paid on the 3rd, which is normal for me. With Prince George's County, for some reason, they always pay around the 3rd or the 4th. You're lucky if you get it the 1st or the 2nd. But yeah, I got mine on the 3rd, so I really wasn't affected too much. And speaking of Prince George's County, if you are a voucher holder with a PG County voucher, I have a 3-bedroom townhouse available in a top tier zip code. Great neighborhood. So if you are interested, you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm at TimLeak_. Now, of course, you're still going to have to pass a background check and get through the screening process. So don't just think you're just going to be moving in. Nah, you still got to go through the entire criteria. So, and also, if you're interested in learning about Section 8 investing, you can get $100 off with coupon code 100OFF on the Section 8 Investors course and coaching program. So just wanted to mention that. But anyway, like I said, I wasn't really affected by the payment freeze, even though some other landlords, their payments were delayed. Now, what I have been affected by, thanks to Trump and his administration, is the deportation, the mass deportation. As many of you know, I also invest in Houston, Texas. Well, I'm sure it's a lot of illegal immigrants out there and a lot of them work. But while I was down there, went to a couple of Home Depots, no one was in sight. Crickets. Specifically, this one Home Depot that it's usually about 30, 35 people out there just looking for work. Drove past, it was like 3 people. I have a handyman down there, handles a lot of my stuff. He's been MIA. I also have a landscaper. He cuts my grass every 2 weeks. Since Trump been in office, I haven't heard from him. MIA. So I don't know if people are actually getting deported, or I don't know if they're hiding, they don't want to come out the house, or what's going on. But my guys down there, man, hopefully y'all are doing all right, but I haven't seen or heard from them. So it's getting crazy. But anyway, Trump nominated a new HUD secretary. He nominated Scott Turner, and he actually won the vote. I believe it was 55-44 in the Senate. So Scott Turner is the new HUD secretary, and this was expected. I mean, every time it's a new president who comes into office, he brings his whole crew with him. He appoints a lot of his people in leadership roles. So this was expected. During Trump's first term, the HUD secretary was Ben Carson. He happened to be the only black member of Trump's cabinet, and that's the same thing with Scott Turner. So far, he's the only black member in Trump's cabinet. I ain't gonna lie, low key is kind of giving like, okay, yeah, go over there and deal with the that urban development, Section 8 ghetto stuff. Like, you go handle all that, but whatever. So who is Scott Turner? So Scott Turner is a former Texas representative, and he's also a former White House senior aide. He actually was with Trump during his first term, and he's also a former football player. But he seems to have a lot of support. A lot of people came out congratulating him, pretty much saying they know he's going to do a good job. He's the perfect person for the job. He has experience dealing with nonprofits and dealing with housing down in Texas. I mean, he seems to have a lot of support. Now, he says he's going to be looking at HUD's finances and seeing where they're wasting money and seeing how they can improve HUD's programs. Obviously, Section 8 is one of HUD's biggest programs and most funded programs. So he's definitely going to be taking a look at the Section 8 program. And there has been a lot of chatter pretty much saying they're expecting him to cut funding to the Section 8 program. Now, if and when this does happen, how is this going to affect housing authorities? How is it going to affect voucher holders? And how is it going to affect Section 8 landlords? Now, when it comes to housing authorities, it'll most likely affect them by, they might have to lay some people off. People might lose their jobs at housing authorities, depending on how much funding is cut. And I don't think the Trump administration is too worried about that. They actually want to get rid of a lot of federal workers. So I know they're not tripping off of employees for the housing authority. Also, the housing authorities won't be able to issue as many vouchers. And it's already an extremely long waiting list to get a voucher. I personally know people who've waited 10 plus years to get a voucher. So the waiting time to get a voucher it's going to be even longer than that. And that's going to affect not so much the current voucher holders, but the ones who are actually in line trying to get vouchers. Those who are waiting for those waiting lists to open. It's going to affect them. Now, as far as the current voucher holders, I don't believe cutting the funding will affect them too much. I believe their biggest problem is finding Section 8 landlords who will accept Section 8 vouchers. Because like I said, most landlords don't want to accept voucher holders. But I do feel like the Section 8 program does have a big problem when it comes to how they don't incentivize voucher holders to get off of the program. You're able to pretty much get a voucher and keep it for life, 30, 40 years. You're not incentivized to give that voucher up. Like they're saying to themselves, why would I work and get paid exactly what I'm getting paid now to not work? So it's like psychological. Why work for the money when I'm getting the money for free? And Section 8 allows it. So a lot of times, you know, as long as you qualify, you can just continue to get a voucher. So they'll make sure they qualify. And a lot of times they'll finesse just to make sure they qualify. But they can get money other ways. They might have a spouse or a boyfriend who move in, who they don't put on the voucher, of course. That spouse might work and earn a good living, but they still taking advantage of not having to pay no rent. So it's ways that they'll finesse, but they want to keep their voucher. I've seen it happen. I've seen voucher holders making six figures, driving foreign cars, nice cars. Not everybody, but there are ones out there that will finesse and take advantage of the system. But the Section 8 program allows them to do this by not incentivizing them or by not having a time limit to how long you can keep a voucher. Like say if they said you can only have a voucher for 10 or 15 years, then they would know, okay, I need to better myself because I'm gonna be losing this voucher. But the fact that they can keep it pretty much forever, a lot of them aren't gonna want to give their voucher up. And that ultimately affects those who don't have a voucher, who are waiting for a voucher, because people are living longer, more babies are being born. So the population of the world is increasing. And the current voucher holders, like I said, they're living longer. So they're keeping the vouchers, and the ones waiting for vouchers, I mean, they're just gonna have to wait longer and longer, especially if HUD starts cutting the funding. Now, as far as landlords, I don't believe it will have a great impact on landlords. We're already the minority, being Section 8 landlords. It's already a lot of voucher holders compared to Section 8 landlords. So I don't believe it's gonna have too much of an impact. If they cut the funding, I don't see them cutting how much they're willing to pay as far as for rent prices. The cost of living and rent prices are constantly going up. So if they want to be competitive and want to get landlords to come to the program, then they're gonna have to pay around about how much the landlord can get if they rent to a private tenant, if not more. So I don't believe the landlord's payments are gonna be decreased at all. So the landlords will be the least impacted if funding does get cut. The second least are the current voucher holders. Families who are waiting for a voucher, they'll probably be the most impacted, and the housing authorities. Like I said, there are plenty of people with vouchers. It's just finding landlords who want to rent to them. That's the problem. But everything is still up in the air right now, so we shall see. But again, thank you guys for watching. Like I mentioned earlier, the Section 8 Investors Course and Coaching Program, you can get $100 off with coupon code 100OFF. So go ahead and take advantage of that. And like always, look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.